resumes. A resume can make or break you getting an interview for a medical coding position, but what is it that employers are looking for in a resume for a medical coding position? Let me tell you some of the critical components you need for your resume, where you can design one for free, and where to go when you just want some professional help. Hey everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator, and on my channel I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. Today we're going to talk about resumes, and resumes are the key to getting that interview so you can unlock a medical coding position. It's kind of like in a video game where you have that boss before the final boss, and when you defeat that final boss, you can free the princess and save the entire village. And your best guide in that hero tale is Project Resume. If you want to leave it to the pros, you definitely need to check out Project Resume. Project Resume will help design a resume document that is specifically created for you to highlight your unique skills, feature your job experience, and gain attention from all types of competitive employers. Resumes and cover letters, they've got you covered. Check out the link below and head over to Project Resume and tell them Victoria from Contempo Coding sent you. Let's start out with keywords. So there's a lot of different keywords that we want to look at and put into our resume so that when employers are scanning them, they can pick out those specific words. Sometimes on resumes, you can even just list some of your skills. So things like CPT, ICD-10, CM, HCPCS, medical coding, surgical coding, revenue cycle management. I'm going to list below just a bank of words that if you have these skills, think about putting them into your resume. When employers are looking for particular skills with medical coders, they'll often look for those specific keywords in a resume, doing a database search with what they call an ATS. An ATS is an applicant tracking system. So if an employer is looking for a coder with a specific skill like cardiovascular coding, they might look specifically for that search word in their database and their ATS for cardiovascular coding. And you want, if you have that skill, it to be in your resume so you can pop up and search. One of the things you should do before you even start formulating your resume is going and scanning positions that are ones you may be interested in and looking at the things that they're searching for. Are they searching for things like someone's detail-oriented, fast-paced environment? Are they looking for terms like surgical coder or E&M coder? And if those are skills you have, make sure that those are reflected in your resume. Pay really, really close attention to those job descriptions and see what you can abstract from there and place into your resume. Check places like Indeed.com or CodersDirect.com and just go over some of the most popular medical coding positions and review them. And before you even start formulating your resume, start filling out those databases of going, oh yeah, that's a skill they're looking for. I have that. I'm just going to jot that down. So you kind of have a rough outline of things that you need to put in your resume before you actually start compiling it. And one of the top things you're going to have on your resume is your name, right? And if you have any coding credentials, you want to put those after your name. So in my case, it's going to look like this: Victoria Moll, CPC, CPMA, COC, the whole alphabet soup that goes under there. That's the first place that they can see that you are a certified coder. Some people also choose to have a section in their resume that lists their credentials. Maybe some people will put it under their education experience. Just be a little bit careful when you go for your education experience, because that's supposed to be formal education, not courses, classes, webinars that you kind of took that are not accredited. So the AAPC, for example, even if you did education with them, I don't know that I would necessarily include that in your education. You definitely want to include the credential, but since the AAPC is not a school, I'm not sure it would be appropriate to put in your education section. But definitely list any degrees you have, even if it's not pertinent to medical coding. It's good to show that you have that education, and also include any medical coding diplomas that you might have from a technical school or business school or anything like that. I think I've even mentioned in the past that because I changed jobs, every job I changed to wanted me to go to a different school. So I've gone to like 5 different colleges by now, but don't have a degree. But I have a lot of coursework, and that does present a bit of a problem with how do I explain that in my resume. I think I've just kind of narrowed it down at this point to really not mentioning most of it because it was just coursework. I think I might list one school that had some pertinent things, but to list out 5 different schools, I think it's just not necessary, especially if it's something like an auditing position I would be applying for and they're really just looking for key things like that I have my auditing credential. It probably doesn't matter to them as much if I took a couple of courses in English at one of the community colleges nearby. I think it is kind of a delicate balance with how far back you want to go historically on your resume. Keep your resume to 1 page, 2 pages maximum, and then that kind of, you kind of have to feel out how much history you want to put back in there. There might be positions that are not related to medical coding, but have some great skills in them, like customer service, that you want to highlight in your resume as well. But if you're going so far back, if you're 50 years old and you've had 10 jobs between now and when you're switching over to medical coding, maybe you don't need to put down that you worked at a clothing store 20 years ago. You kind of have to feel out that balance of what is pertinent things that you want to highlight because they may be something that an employer will find beneficial versus not wanting your resume to be too long. A lot of recruiters and employers are only doing a quick glance at resumes. So if they're looking at your resume and it's in tiny, tiny font and you're going back 20 years, they might not even want to waste the time to look for it because there's only key things, those keywords we talked about that they're really trying to abstract from your resume. Now, as far as cover letters, there's a little bit of a different school of thought. Some people say, hey, customize the cover letter for every single job that you're applying for. I've actually read some studies that say that most employers aren't even really looking for cover letters, but they do kind of want to see them just because traditionally they like having them. A lot of positions these days, they want you to input everything specifically in their system and maybe attach a resume. If they're not specifically asking for a cover letter, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you are going to make custom cover letters, I would really say to look at that position specifically that you're applying for, look for those keywords, abstract them, and make sure they're spoken to in your cover letter as well. Now, if you watched my video on how to make a presentation as a medical coder, you're not going to be too surprised by the options that I'm going to provide on how to make a resume. First is going to be Microsoft Word. Now, not everyone has access to Microsoft Word, but sometimes as a student, you might have a package that you can get through your school or utilized through a web-based application. But if you do have it, it is a great tool to utilize Microsoft Word. Now, what you do is when it starts here and you're creating a new document, you search here for the word resume. Sometimes they have it even here as a suggestion. So suggestion, business cards, flyers, letters, education, resumes, and cover letters right there. So these are all the different templates that they have in Word for resumes and cover letters. I'm told that the images ones are not really popular in the United States. They might be in other countries. I know I do have a good amount of viewers from India, so in your area they might be popular, so that it can maybe verify that you're the correct person. But you can, in the United States, use something a little bit more simple. I think these ones that have kind of little color pops on them aren't too bad, but if you want to go with something kind of simple, they do have some templates you can utilize for a more standard-based resume. So here's one, and we can just hit create. And basically it's plug and play. You take out the information here and put in your information. So if I was doing this, I would just say, Victoria Moll, CPC. Now I would probably want to make this a little bit smaller for my personal uses to fit all my credentials on here. I'm told that it's not really necessary to put your full address on anymore. So if you're not comfortable putting your street address, you could leave that off and maybe just put a city and state, because as you're applying for remote positions, they might want to know if you're local or not. Phone number, email address, absolutely. You might want to include a LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn, that's a great place for recruiters to go to and look at some more in-depth information if they're interested in you. And this is what I mean by things like keywords. You can put them in maybe your little starting statement here. Analytical, detail-oriented. They have gap expertise. You might want to put in here that what type of coding that you do. If you do inpatient coding, risk adjustment, surgical coding, cardiovascular coding, plastic surgery, what type of coding do you put in here? Or even just more so what you're looking at. I'm a certified medical coder and I'm looking for an entry-level position in professional fee coding, or you're looking for an auditing position, whatever it is that you're looking for. And then some of those keywords. I'm someone who's very detail oriented. I'm hard working in a fast-paced environment. If you had a really high score on your credential exam, that might be even something that you want to weave in there as well. Now, when it comes to experience, you definitely want to keep it down to a couple of lines. There are some different ways you can do this. You can do it kind of like they did here with a little bit of a paragraph. Another way to do it is just put in focused bullets. Like I would limit it to maybe 3 different bullets. A great way to figure out what to put here is if you actually have a copy of your prior job description, abstract some of the statements from in there, put it in as bullets in your resume. And if you look, this template, it only goes down to about 1.5 pages, so not too bad. It's not a very long type of resume. So down here would be where you would put your education information. You could put your GPA, or even if you had a high score in your exam, maybe this is somewhere where you might want to consider putting it. Now skills, I'm going to talk about that bank that I'm going to put it in the description of what types of skills you want to include in there. So that might be things like if there's software that you know, like Epic. If you know Epic, you definitely want to list that as one of your skills. Any EMRs, medical record systems, if you have customer service skills, if you know scheduling, if you know HIPAA, compliance, auditing, any specialties that you code for, that's all pertinent information to put into the skills section. I don't know that this information here that they put on here, activities and interests, I think we can just get rid of that. That's not something that employers are going to be particularly interested in. Something maybe you can discuss while you're having your interview, but not necessary for your resume. This next resource, completely free, anyone can use it, and they have lots of great templates as well, and that is Google Docs. So Google Docs, when you get there, you want to hit the personal section. You can see here in the resume gallery, they have a few different options for resumes. Here's a cute looking one. We'll just load this up and see what it looks like. So you can put this in here and customize it yourself. So here would be your name. So Victoria Moll. Whoop. And then here's where your address is. Over here is the skills section, so that's where you would put your keywords, any awards if you have those applicable. Languages, that's an awesome thing that I didn't even think about putting in there because I don't speak any other than English. My boyfriend's bilingual, he speaks English and Vietnamese, but I only speak English, so I guess maybe I probably wouldn't need a language section in there. Projects, that's cool if you've had certain special projects that you've worked on. I even have on some of mine publications. So if you've published anything in Healthcare Business Monthly or been featured in a magazine, anything like that, you could put this on, change this to publications. Oh, this is capitalized, so we want to keep that capitalized. We want to follow the format here, publications. So I would want to maybe put down here Healthcare Business Monthly. May 2020, and then maybe put the article name here about what the article was about. Again, when you're putting in your experience, here's your company name, here is the location, job title, dates that you worked there, and then either put in a small paragraph or like 3 bullets of things. You can abstract that from your job description, or sometimes your job description doesn't necessarily match what you did, right? So if there was something that was way above and beyond in your position that you did that wasn't part of your job description and would be something that a potential employer would like to see, make sure that you're including that. If you're already a coder and looking for a new coding position, include things like your accuracy rating, if you had really good audits, if you had a really good speed, you were able to code a certain amount of charts in an hour. And don't be afraid to ask a friend or a relative or even someone from your AAPC chapter to look over your resume to see if they have any suggestions of tweaks that you can make to make it shine a little bit better and stand out more. Especially if there's someone at your local chapter that works somewhere that you also want to work. And then the last place I know of that's great for making resumes is canva.com. So if you go over here to the create a design, you just search the word resume. And there you go. So now the one thing about Canva is it's not going to download it as a Word document. You will have the option to download it as a PDF. So let's say I want one that's kind of just, I like this cute one here with just the initials here. So here we go, VM for Moll. Oh, I have to make mine a little bit bigger. There we go. So I could put down some career summaries here, a little bit of details. I don't like this one too much because of all this blank space. I feel like this is not active white space. This to me just feels like it's just blank white space. Let's try another template. Let's switch over and see what else we can get here. Let's try this one here. Replace current template. This one's cute. I think this white space here is more of what we refer to as active white space. It gives you some relief from your eyes so that it's not overloaded, but it's not so much that it just looks like there's a big blank spot in the middle of the page. So this one here, about me, that's not too bad. I kind of like that. You could put your little mission statement there. I'm very laser focused, detail oriented, fast paced, medical coding guru, whatever you want to put in there. And then your education there, that might be this might be a good template for someone who maybe doesn't have, a ton of education. You just went through something through your local college, or you just have a certificate. You could put in here certified professional coder, AAPC. Prior experience, and then again your skill bank here, all your different skills, you want to make sure that you highlight them in here. Now when you download these, they're not going to download as a Word document. Usually they download as a PDF. So this is the download button, and these are the options that you have. You have standard PDF or videos or images. So basically I would select the PDF print. That's the high resolution PDF, which PDFs will still be searchable in this format. Now, if you are someone who's looking for more of a creative type of job in medical coding, you could definitely do one of these ones where you have, your picture here, and what you can do is all your uploads here, you can pick a picture that you have, you can plug it in there. What this does is if you want to move it around, you hit the crop button, you can make yourself bigger, move it around, but that circle is basically a frame that you can put your face or whatever in there. And you can see some of these are very snazzy. You can include things like your social bios. For most medical coding jobs, you probably won't need that unless you're doing something that's very, very specific, maybe a project management type of job, or something in a particular niche where they might want to see your socials or projects that you worked on or a picture of you, etc. You can see with some of these templates, they kind of went under your experience, want you to put like 3 bullets under there and just highlight what your tasks were or any really pertinent, awesome things that you did in that position. Keep your education in there. Don't go off too far that you have a resume that's more than 2 pages maximum. Really try and narrow it down to 1, because remember, employers are just real quick scanning. They're looking for those keywords. They might even just be searching through them in that ATS database. For a lot of medical coding positions, at least in the States, having a picture and having fancy graphics probably won't be necessary. You can definitely try it out and see if it works for you, but really it's those key things that they're looking for. So if they're hiring for a surgical coder, they want to see the word surgical coder. If they're hiring someone with a certain accuracy rate, they want to see that you have that accuracy rate. If they're looking for someone who codes inpatient, they want to see the word inpatient or facility coder in there so they can pull it out. Sometimes with large organizations, the recruiters hire for lots of different types of positions in the healthcare organization, and they don't always understand the difference between inpatient or outpatient or professional fee coding or even risk adjustment. So they might be going, oh, I just need a medical coder, and they might pull out medical coders that code inpatient for a professional fee position. So you have to be a little bit careful about that. The ones that are hiring for large companies that hire a lot of coders, they definitely know the difference, but I would make sure that you speak to a little bit of what type of coding you do. If you can do inpatient, which includes PCS coding, so if you don't code PCS, don't put on there that you can do inpatient or facility coding. Say that you do, professional coding, risk adjustment, whatever type of coding it is that you do. And that might just be encompassed in your credential. If you have the CCS, you do inpatient facility coding. If you have your CPC, you do professional fee coding. I think I do have a video that explains the different types of coding. If so, I'll link it up here. So find a nice template that you think works for you and just work in your specific information into that template. If you're not comfortable with that and you really want something that's going to make you shine and really look fantastic for employers, definitely, again, check out Project Resume. I have the link in the description below. I hope that helped you out. I will see you guys in the next video, and until then, just keep on coding on.